everyone, and welcome back to the best of 2022, brought to you by Get Your Geek On. I'm Robert. That's Aaron. We're here with Frank, and today we're talking about Tales of the Jedi, which released on Disney Plus. It's kind of a little mini-series, 6 episodes, filling in some gaps with some familiar characters in Star Wars. And it's very familiar to the Clone Wars animation, but they're kind of vignettes. They're not real, like, full episodes. We're talking like 15, 20 minutes.
Correct.
Very easy to get through. And this was one of our favorite things in Star Wars that we had to talk about as we talked about 2022. So we're going to dive right in. Aaron, tell me what you loved about the Tales of the Jedi from the Star Wars fan that doesn't love the Jedi stuff. He's like, I don't like the Jedi stuff. I don't like the lightsaber stuff. Tell me why you love Tales of the Jedi.
I would like to point out, I don't like the Skywalker stuff. I want to, preface it with that.
And you know what? And you would love this because it's not Skywalker.
Exactly.
Based.
And I think we've done, I know you haven't been here for a minute, Frank, but me and Robert have done a lot of reviews on non-Luke Skywalker or any Skywalker stuff.
Yeah.
And those have been my favorite.
Boba Fett, Bad Batch,
Andor.
Absolutely.
And this was, again, I'm not a fan of the Skywalkers, and I always like to let everybody know, because we've had 9 movies of Skywalkers, I'm done with the storyline. I'm done with who they are. I could care less if Luke and everybody else died.
Damn Kardashians of the...
Yeah. They are. They are the Kardashians.
Maybe the Kardashians will guest appear on our show. Like, let's not piss them off.
I don't want them on the show.
I don't want them on the show.
I would like
I don't want
to
them either.
I mean, I would want them to.
Anyway, all right. We're moving on.
So, this show was one of my favorites because, again, we get a corner of the universe we haven't seen in the movies. We haven't seen in TV. Robert told me one of the things I think you thought I would like too, and that's probably the better part, is the Count Dooku stuff.
Yeah, the Dooku stuff is my favorite, bro.
I watched that. I was immediately intrigued, especially knowing that now Qui-Gon Jinn was his Padawan, knowing that that was who he mentored and taught. And again, we almost see a difference. It almost makes me want to rewatch the old films, honestly, because it makes me wonder, like, Dooku went one way and Qui-Gon Jinn went another.
Correct.
And that was just enough separation between the characters that made me intrigued enough to want to watch it. And of course, Christopher Lee, of course, being Count Dooku.
Right, and he's not voicing him, obviously. No, he has passed away. It's Corey Burton, who also voiced him in the Clone Wars. And he's doing a great job.
Amazing. It threw me off for a quick second. I will not lie. And I was like, he's been dead for like about 7 years. And again, to see Dooku come back, to see his story of how he became essentially who he was.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
he just got tired.
Part of the thing that I love about things like this in these giant continuities, whether it be Marvel or Star Wars or DC or anything, like when we fill in gaps, but we do it in a way that really enhances what we've gotten before. And this was something that, especially with Count Dooku, seeing him kind of go through this pathway of disillusionment with the Republic and with the Jedi Order. Like, that's what he's seeing. We see it over the course of 3 episodes. We see him slowly losing faith in the Senate, in the Jedi, in, the Republic functioning as a whole. And what I love is that, this all supports what we find out in my least favorite Star Wars movie, Attack of the Clones. I hate it. You've heard me tell
third one.
This is the second one. I hate Attack of the Clones. But one of the things that is in that movie is when they talk about Count Dooku, they're talking about him and they say, like, he's a political idealist. And you see the seeds of that in this show. Yeah. You see that he's
disillusioned with the Republic.
You see that he, at least at this stage, he's not like a full-on, I want to be a Sith, I want to be, a dark side user. No. Like, he is seeing that the people are not being served by the Republic, and he's wanting to make a difference and do something about that. And of course, Palpatine / Darth Sidious manipulates him into then going down the dark side path because of that. Same way we saw that with Anakin, where he uses that other motivation to get them on his side. And so, again, it was just a beautiful arc for him. And the Ahsoka episodes, I didn't like them as much as the Dooku episodes, but it was really cool to see Ahsoka in a few different kind of scenarios and really, kind of come into her own. It was just, again, nice to fill in some gaps. So, there's 6 episodes total, 3 about Ahsoka, 3 about Dooku, and ultimately, this is one of those pieces of the Star Wars universe that I just hope we get more. Like, if they just keep making Tales of the Jedi and just we keep getting these 10, 15-minute episodes about these characters, I'm going to love it.
What backstory? I enjoy the same with you. Like, I wish they would do like backstories about Plo, and they did the backstory about the female.
Dude,
like we need female Yoda.
We need Plo Koon. We need Shakti. We need
everybody.
Yeah, let's do it.
And I mean, it's just got to be like, and it doesn't even have to be that long. 3 episodes long.
It's like, what language are you speaking?
It gives it a little arc. I mean, I love the Ahsoka episodes, and yes, I love the Dooku episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, just seeing how disillusioned he was with like. So the Republic knows that you guys are in like poverty and being treated like shit, and they're not doing anything.
I don't care.
Like, I'm gonna do something about it.
Right.
And Qui-Gon's like, no, we can't kill for just like no reason. This is this is just the way it is. And he's like, I don't believe that. Like,
well, and I want to ask you, because I know we've talked about Dooku. You've said Ahsoka. I like Ahsoka from Mandalorian, but what did you like about that?
I liked the fact that I didn't know very much of Ahsoka coming in. Like, you meet her in, I guess, the Clone Wars cartoon when it first came out in the movies, and she's already a teenager. So you don't really know, like, her background. Like, who was her family? Where did she come from? And this one, it shows that that's how they found out that she had the Force because she stopped that giant tiger from eating her. Yeah, just kind of stopping it. And then her family's like, my God, she's got the Force.
Jedi.
Right. And her family's like, we're gonna have to give her up to the Jedi. So it was hard for them because they thought she was just going to be like a regular kid. Let's take her on the hunt, bring her into her own, this, that, and the other. And then they realize she's special, and then they pass her on. So it was good to know that there was that back arc, like, you met her mom, you met her dad, you met her family.
Yeah, and I love, again, we get an episode where we see her, meet Bail Organa for the first time. And that is a relationship that really comes to fruition in, Star Wars Rebels and in other pieces of the universe. And, like, I think we might see Bail Organa show up in the Ahsoka series. Like, that would be depending on when it takes place, because of course Bail Organa was on Alderaan when it turned into an asteroid field. So
how best way to describe that?
I mean,
maybe he got away.
Yeah, no, he didn't. But again, this is. I mean, it's a little over an hour all told with 6 episodes. Like, it's a quick watch. It's an easy watch. And I kind of think it flew under the radar this year in Star Wars. Like, we had the Kenobi show, we had Boba Fett. The majority of that was during this year. We had Andor, of course, and people loved all those things. And I liked a lot of those things too. We're going to talk about some of them, or we may have already talked about them, depending on when this video comes out. But I think I really loved this series again because it was just little pieces that kind of filled in some gaps in a meaningful way. Like, that's one of the things that I think Star Wars doesn't always do, is sometimes there are gaps that they fill in. I go, like, we didn't really need that. This one, it really felt like we needed it.
Yeah, I think this one would throw in those morsels where, like, if you're not a big Star Wars fan and you started watching these first, you'd want to know who's Dooku.
Yeah,
and then you start watching.
I can only imagine if I watched this before I watched Attack of the Clones, I would like Attack of the Clones better. Yes. I'll be perfectly honest.
That's one thing I want to say. I want to go watch the prequel again because I haven't watched those almost since they came out.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not a true Star Wars fan. I will always say that and start with that I'm not the first to be like, oh, Star Wars this, Star Wars that. But this made me say, okay, now I got Dooku's backstory and Ahsoka's.
Yeah.
I want to go back and watch some of the older stuff and then go into Mandalorian.
I guess because of the movies, they can't put all the fillers. Yeah, they can't show you everything. Right. So when you meet Dooku, he's already bad. Right. And you're like, why is he bad? And he's like trying to convince Kenobi is like, I'm not the bad one.
And there's all these like pieces of like that you're seeing the conversation between him and Kenobi, or like we're getting backstory on the clone army and stuff like that. And again, we're just filling in gaps. We're linking up with events in the movies that happen in like Phantom Menace, in Attack of the Clones, certainly in Revenge of the Sith, also in our season 7 of the Clone Wars TV series with the Ahsoka episode, like links up directly with some of the events that are in there. So ultimately, it does a really good job of, again, kind of filling in some gaps, but in a meaningful way that enhances what's come before.
Yes.
And ultimately, that's why for us, it was one of the best things of 2022. We want to know what you thought. Had you seen Tales of the Jedi? If you have, let us know what you thought. If you haven't seen it, go check it out on Disney Plus.
Yes.
Easy watch. Definitely a lot of fun. One of our favorites of the year.
So on that note, guys, definitely check out everything we've been doing on official GYGO on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere we are at, Spotify, and of course any other podcasts you do, as we do Talking Geek and everything else.
Yes.
And for, of course, on that note, I'm Aaron. This is Robert, and that's Frank, our former cameraman, who's now on camera.
Damn it.
Stay geeky and get your geek on, guys.
Bye.
Bye.